Don't forget, my friends, to like, comment, and subscribe. This is a show by the people, for the people. And it was created for people like you. And the more that we hear from you, the more that you participate, the better we like it. So jump in, join our community, and let your voice be heard on all of the variety of issues that we like to cover on this program. Issues such as those that we'll be talking about today. The Why Not tournament rolls on, and Duke is intent on making a run to the Final Four. I'm talking about Daisy Duke. She's meeting baseball on the radio, standing in her way. Will she be able to make it to the Final Four? Will this be a Duke double this year with Cooper Flagg and Daisy Duke? It might be. And the NFL changes its overtime rules. We'll talk about that as well. We got a lot of other good things for you. A lot of Super 70s sports tweets sprinkled like Easter eggs throughout the backyard of your life this morning. But let's begin. Here's the thing about the Torpedo Bat. All right? I'm a believer that you shouldn't take, small amounts of anecdotal evidence and then just run with that. And oh my God, the Torpedo Bat, every game. Dave Portnoy, had the selfie video that went around the world where, he's basically overreacting and saying every game is going to be 100-98 or whatever Dave said, because this is just fundamentally going to change the game of baseball and it needs to be banned. And I don't know how much of that Dave meant, how much of that was Yankees trolling, but I'm going to be cautious about saying that the Torpedo Bat is some sort of thing that is just going to be so much better than regular bats that, oh my God, we're never going to see anything like this. However, in the limited data that we have so far, they seem pretty goddamn effective, Ron. So we gotta let more data come in. But in the very limited returns that we've seen over the course of the last, 3 days, the Torpedo Bats seem to be working some strange magic.
It's one of these. I guess the question is so the baseball purists, if the Torpedo Bat comes in, are the baseball purists going to stop watching baseball to counter me, who doesn't like baseball, but now I'm kind of interested and I want to watch now to see if
is this what it took for you fucking casual? Now you're wait a minute,
seriously.
Torpedoes?
Wait, seriously, Ricky,
for the first time since 1980.
Right, but seriously though, think about it. Like if this is something that draws somebody like me into being like, you know what, I'm going to consume some baseball now. Is that better than having the purists be upset about it? And I mean, it's literally, so you add me, do you lose a purist? My guess is you don't lose a purist. They're just mad. They're just yelling at the clouds. But you are going to add people like me. So I'm all for it. I mean, is it any different?
Anything that helps with contact in this day and age? They're changing other shit anyway. I would have cared a lot more before they started changing all kinds of rules and putting imaginary runners on second base and all of that shit.
Is it any different than these gloves that the wide receivers wear in football that basically they're catching it with one hand because it's sticking to their hand? Like, is it any different than that? It's just an advancement in technology that helps the game.
Look at golf clubs, Ron. I think of it in terms of golf clubs.
Yeah.
Look at what a driver, what was Jack Nicklaus swinging in the 70s and the 80s. And then I remember the first metalhead drivers. Remember that? Ping! Guys off the tee. It was like, this is weird. What the fuck? But they then remember the oversized heads. And then they kept getting bigger and bigger.
Big Bertha.
Yeah. And then when you think they can't get any bigger, they get bigger again. Technology is always moving on.
Right. And it's true, Ricky. It's true with any of these sports. Tennis, right? Like tennis rackets are a million times different than what they were in the 70s. Depending on the string. I'm surprised
that nobody thought of this sooner now that it's out of the bag. Let's bring in producer Tim, Ricky Cobb Show Torpedo Bat correspondent.
Baseball purist
Tim,
or not?
We're
it's not
3 or 4 days into the Torpedo Bat overreaction era. Where do you stand on this?
well. So I know you and I were talking last night, Ricky. We, watching that Reds games as it unfolded. I didn't realize his first couple at bats he was using the torpedo. It's not just power, right? Like the Yankees and this physicist designed a bat for Anthony Volpe, for example, who they discovered he makes most of his contact on the handle. So they've actually put a lot of the weight towards the handle of the bat. So, like, I think your analogy is perfect. And actually, our senior producer, Aaron, was saying the same thing yesterday. It's really custom designing, much like golf clubs, right to your actual swing and what you need and what you want. So I don't have a problem with it, Ron. I'm not a purist. I'm definitely a baseball fan. I was also jazzed that last night's Reds pitcher is probably the odds-on favorite to get the first complete game, maybe in the majors. I need to check my stats on that. I don't think anyone's thrown in the last 3 days here. But I'm most excited for Mother's Day when they come out with the pink torpedo bats, because that's really going to be the big hit.
Pink torpedo. I don't get it, Tim. Why are you smirking?
It's an inside joke.
Oh, okay.
It's when the Yankees come out with their pink torpedoes and just start, spraying balls all over the field. It's going to be a memorable Mother's Day.
I do think, in
everywhere.
all seriousness, though, I think MLB has an issue on their hands. I think the Yankees did go to MLB beforehand. They were approved before they used them. But I think if you keep seeing nights like Dela Cruz last night and these record-shattering things, like, I don't know, it's no surprise. Teams put rush orders in. The Braves ordered them. I know a couple of the members of the Cubs. I don't think Lawson, Carson Kelly? I don't think he was swinging it last night. He hit for the cycle. But look, if you start getting
Cubs
more and more,
their shipment in.
Yeah, a couple guys were swinging it last night. I don't believe Carson Kelly was.
Tim, did you watch the Reds game last night?
I did. It was unbelievable how empty the stadium was.
Well, so I guess my question is so just to you as an observer, you're the naked eye. When Dela Cruz was making contact, did it seem like the ball was popping off differently than you would expect?
Yes, but he has such a big swing that it's hard to measure. If you check out some of his exit velocities on balls hit, even without the torpedo bat, he's a monster when he swings. No, Ron, I don't think it's to Ricky's point. I don't think you're hearing the ping like you would at when they first started using metal drivers. You're not seeing that. But look, Dela Cruz literally touched the bat for the first time in batting practice. He liked it and used it in the game and had a career night. So maybe some of it's psychosomatic. I don't know. But again, I think if a couple more of these keep popping up, MLB is definitely going to have to figure out if this is really clean ball or not.
The man who hosts Don't At Me right here on OutKick, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. He is, of course, the pride of the Hoosier State of Indiana. Dan Dakich joins me. Dan, how are you?
I'm great, man. How you doing?
I'm good, my brother. I'm pretty good. I don't know. What are you thinking about this basketball, bro? I mean, we're coming down to the nitty-gritty here. What are your thoughts?
I think we got a great Final Four. I think we got the four best teams all year. I think they established themselves as such. I like Duke. I like Duke a lot, man. That freshman, Cooper Flagg's the best freshman I've ever seen. He best freshman I'd seen prior, I think, was Magic. Maybe Zion Williamson, but damn, I mean, Cooper Flagg is something. Long plays, makes game look easy. Auburn, I love the fact that I have a Jewish sister-in-law and Jewish nieces and nephews, and 3 Jewish coaches are in the Final Four. I like that. Bruce Pearl, friend of the show, golden friend of the show. So, hey, I'm all in on it, man. I think it's a great Final Four. I think we're in for some great games, and I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be in Vegas. I'm not sure I'm going to watch. Depends on what happens. Be golfing, but I'm looking forward to everything.
These coaches, we got somebody that's going to cut down the nets and take home a national championship for the first time. You got Bruce Pearl and Kelvin Sampson, 2 great veterans, 2 guys that have the resume. The championship is really about the only thing that has eluded either one of them. And then you got John Shire and Todd Golden, two young, up-and-coming coaches that have tremendously bright futures. As you look at the coaches here, what are your thoughts on those four guys?
Well, I think all four, in their own way, have done an exceptionally good job. I'll start with Shire. I mean, you know, the idiots in the media say you never want to replace the guy. Well, yeah, you do. If you get a chance to coach at Duke, you want to coach at Duke. I mean, damn, let's be honest. You get a chance. I don't care who the previous coach was. Same thing with, like, Indiana. They offer you a chance to coach at Indiana, Connecticut. It don't matter who was there. And Shire's made it his own, and he has done it by recruiting. He's recruited really good players, and he has put them in a position offensively where they make the game easy, and defensively they're really good. I think Shire has done an exceptionally job. He surrounded himself with Duke guys. They all understand the, quote, brotherhood. It's fun to watch. Sampson I worked for, he was a notorious cheat. Sampson never thought he was a good coach, or else he wouldn't have cheated like he did. I think 5 years in the NBA, best thing ever happened to Sampson was getting fired. And I think his time in the NBA with Greg Popovich and others really helped him. I always said this, Coach Knight used to say this, and I believed it. You know, if you think you're a great coach, you don't need to cheat. Sampson was a really good coach, don't get me wrong, before he went to Indiana. But he relied more on just getting good players and not worrying about much culture. And now he worries about it all, and that's good. They've been fantastic, and they're probably the toughest team. And Todd Golden, honest to God, Ricky, he was on our show, and he looks like he's 10 years old. But there's a smarts, he's analytical, there's a toughness to him. They've got two of everything. They've gone in the transfer portal. And they've done a great job. And you mentioned Bruce Pearl. I love his enthusiasm for everything, man. He's enthusiastic about educating people on what's going on with the Jewish people. He's enthusiastic about recruiting, playing, coaching, pregame, postgame, everything in between. And anybody that doesn't think he can coach is out of their mind. He gets his team to play hard. He gets his team to go inside out. The Broom kid's been terrific. I think the four coaches are great, absolutely great.
Dan, women's tournament viewing numbers are way down, as expected. Looks like viewership is down over 20% from 2024. The Caitlin Clark effect. Juju Watkins getting hurt probably isn't helping with that either. Over on the women's side, anything over there intriguing for you in this March Madness?
Yeah, you know, Ricky, UCLA, their star player, Gabby Jaquez, her brother Jaime was a great player at UCLA, and he's in the NBA with the Heat. Well, Gabby, her aunt, Carmen Simpson, played for my wife at Bowling Green. And so back when the NCAA tournament was here and UCLA was making the run to the national championship or making a run to the Final Four, the entire Jaquez family stayed with us that entire week. We had mom and dad and aunt, and Gabby was there, brother. They would come in, you know, they'd go home for school, come back weekends, that kind of stuff. But the mom and dad were here. And everybody loves Gabby. And Gabby's now a starting forward, number one UCLA's NCAA Final Four team. And so, yeah, to me, I'm rooting like crazy for UCLA because of Gabby. She's so cool. She's so nice. She was, I think, maybe a sophomore. I don't know. I have to look it up in high school when she and their family were here. But they were just awesome, Ricky. So they stayed at our house. They stayed the weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it was. Had a blast. I'm going to put my UCLA picture up today with their family and our family. And so that's what stood out to me, Ricky. And I love that Gino Auriemma is back in it because he'll be a jackass at some point. And I love that Kim Mulkey called out some reporter. I like all that stuff, Ricky. I like jackassery, my friend.
Are you surprised that Paige Bueckers is not maybe a little more nationally popular than she is? A lot of people are saying that you think there's a greater parallel to her than to Caitlin Clark, but there's no Paige Bueckers mania going on.
You know, it's an interesting question. I saw where some commentators on ESPN or I don't know, trying to pair her up with race or something. Look, Caitlin Clark's, Ricky, I've always said this, Caitlin Clark's game is so much different than what we've seen. I hate to say this because Paige Bueckers is a great player. an all-time great player, but we've seen her game before, Ricky. We've seen it. We have. I'm sorry, but we never saw Caitlin Clark's game. Diana Taurasi was, I guess the original Great White Hope, and all the angry African-American lesbians of the WNBA didn't get mad at her because she kind of stayed in her lane. Caitlin Clark has become global. I'm not sure, Ricky. I don't think we're ever any comparisons for a woman player to the fanfare of Caitlin Clark are really unfair, I think. And Paige is great in her own way, but she's not as dynamic as Caitlin Clark. She just, every once in a while a player hits. Every once in a while a team hits. Every once in a while an announcer hits. Whatever. A year, social media. Everyone, a lot of people have tried to do what you've tried to do or on social media, but it didn't hit. Yours did. Yours has. It does. And it's just the way of the world, but she's great. But it's Caitlin Clark, we'd never seen that before. We really haven't.
Yeah, you're right. If Caitlin Clark plays like a guy. I think if we're being honest, is as much of anything as what caught people's attention.
She bitches and moans. Ricky, I went to a game. I always said this. Sometimes I go to a game, sometimes it's a football game, and I always wonder, who are my eyes going to be drawn to? And the game I went to, she was playing, Taurasi was playing, Griner, they were playing Phoenix, and your eyes are immediately drawn to Caitlin Clark because she's kind of a badass. She bitches at her teammates, she yells at the ref, she's yelling at her coach, and I'm like, hey, and she's kicking everybody's ass. And you know what, Ricky, I'm kind of down for that. Not every great player do people get drawn to. But she just, whatever the it factor is on the court, she got it. And she got it many, many times over, brother.
Pulling up and draining 30-foot jump shots goes a long way. Dan, before I get you out of here, baseball season is here. We got the Cubs home opener on Friday. We're going to be doing this show from Wrigleyville. Ronnie T-Shirts is going to be up here in Chicago with me. A little bit of history. First time we've been together for a broadcast. Dan, are you fired up about a little bit of baseball this season?
Yeah, I was supposed to do a show up there, but I'm going to Vegas with my son. I love the Cubs. If you're going to ask me what I love about summer, I love playing golf, betting my face off, drinking beers outside, outdoor sex if my wife will allow it, and Cubs baseball. That's my summer, big boy. I love going downtown. My daughter's in Chicago. Ricky, for me as a kid from Northwest Indiana, I have unbelievable memories of going to Wrigley Field, whether it was I sold my shoes for money so that we could drink beer when I was in college, whether it was beating up a guy over a foul ball who punched me in the side of the head down the left field line. Comiskey Park, a friend of mine getting in a big fist fight, got thrown in Comiskey jail, which we didn't know there was a Comiskey jail back in the day. Drinking beers outside of Murphy's and making a friend when I was single. I won't go any farther than that. I love Wrigley Field, baby, and the Cubs got a win last night, and freaking guy hit for the cycle. Only thing I wish is I was sitting there right next to you. I wouldn't do your show with you. I'd just be drinking and laughing and having old styles and having a blast. Yes, sir, I'm all in on the Cubs, baby.
Outdoor sex and go Cubs go. That's what it's all about,
hip, hip,
baby. You got me ready for the summertime. Dan Dakich, always a pleasure, my brother.
Sorry about the earlier technical difficulties, but I couldn't hear you, so I didn't know when you wanted me to go. But once you got me to go, I got revved up, big boy. Let's go. Yeah.
You finished up strong, Dan. Made up for it and more with that closing sequence, let me tell you. He is. Dan Dakich. The show is Don't At Me. 9 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, right here on OutKick. The NFL is going to change their overtime rules. They are adopting postseason overtime rules that will now become regular season rules. I guess they can still have a tie in the regular season. They're not going to play a second overtime, but both teams are now going to be allowed to possess the ball. All right, so you and I grew up in a world where it was decided by a coin flip. They flipped a coin. Unless you were cognitively delayed, you would choose to take the ball if you won, and then you go down the field and see what you could do. And if you got down there and kicked a field goal or scored a touchdown, the other team never had an opportunity to possess the ball, right? Well, then the rules got changed to where you can get the ball if the other team only gets a field goal. If they get the ball and they score a touchdown, game's over. But if they kick a field goal, you get a chance to possess the ball. Now it's going to be, you're going to get a chance to possess the ball no matter what, I guess, unless a safety occurs. What do you think, Ron?
I mean, I like it. I don't think that you should ever have an overtime where one of the teams doesn't get a chance to have the ball. I mean, it seems wildly unfair that calling a coin flip wrong could, cause you to not even have a chance to win. So I like it.
Yeah, I think the statistics indicate, I would have to go back and look at what the numbers were, but I think teams that won the coin toss back in the old rules that we were talking about, right? The ones that we grew up with where it was purely a coin flip, who gets the ball first. I think they won somewhere on the order of 55% of the time. And I don't think that the change that they made where, the field goal, I still think the team that won the coin flip was winning somewhere around that range. So they're trying to make it as close to 50-50 as they can. And it seems like the fairest way to do that is to let both teams have an opportunity to possess the football. Do you prefer the college overtime system, the way that they do it, where they line you up, down pretty close to the goal line, or do you like it better taking the ball and having to work your way down the field?
I like the college version better if they did the college version better. I think that the way the college does it is stupid. 25 yards is too close. They need to put it at the 40-yard line because even if you don't get any yards, you can kick a field goal. So put it at the 40-yard line and make the other team the offense has to gain some yards in order to kick a field goal. So I want to see him start at least the 40, maybe the 45, and then I cannot stand you just are going for 2 points after the second overtime. I think that's just insane. Don't like it at all. But I would prefer my version for college to be for the pros too. But yeah.
I would vote for you. I actually like what your
25 is
like
too close, Ricky.
there,
It's
Ronnie.
too close to start. It's too close to start.
What about what's wrong with starting at the 50?
Sure. Start at the 50, start at the 60,
know?
but the 25 is just too close.
Yeah, I agree with that. At least they can't play like 7 overtimes anymore. Well, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I love those games.
They can.
It's like, 92 to
Right.
85 today.
Hopefully you had the over. Hopefully you had the over.
Game. Yeah. And you're like, what the fuck happened there? It's like, well, they went 10 overtimes. Let's talk about a place where, we got one game today that might need an overtime. I'll give a little bit of a tease there without revealing it, but we are coming down the stretch here. Why not tournament Sweet 16? There are 3 games currently underway, the last 3 games of the Sweet 16. We're going to have the Elite 8 settled by this evening. You can see Beer and 80s MTV over in the West region. Susanna Hoffs and A Good Night's Sleep. The other matchup over there, Bacon awaits the winner of Daisy Duke against Baseball on the Radio. And let's go ahead and look at that one first. Get the results up. That went up yesterday evening. And Ron, you predicted Baseball on the Radio, did you not?
I did not emphatically predict it. I did predict it. I think I thought it would be. It had a chance. I mean, I'll take the L on this, but it did do
Close.
pretty good. Yeah, it did do pretty good.
Close. anything inside 55-45 is pretty fucking close, actually. Yeah. We're learning as we see these matchups. But Daisy Duke is powerful. She's Wonder Woman in cutoffs. So
I mean,
that's a stout one for baseball on the radio.
To be fair, I mean, her name named a certain style of shorts that is still used today by people that never watched that show. So it's pretty powerful.
That's tough for Marty Brenneman. That's a tough one for Marty Brenneman to get over.
Yep.
Catherine Bach in short shorts or Joe Nuxall and Marty Brenneman. Look, there are some sick fucks like yourself and maybe me that would have voted for baseball on the radio. It was such an iconic part of my growing up. I don't know the relationship that fans have today with baseball on the radio. I know certainly there still are a lot of fans who enjoy that. But in our era, I think the 70s and 80s, Ron, you've talked before, I think on this show, I know on our old podcast, you've talked about, just going to bed with your radio and listening to the game and just the imagination required. Baseball
theater
on the radio is in some ways.
Theater of the mind.
Yeah, it's a lot like reading a good book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good for your imagination. And I don't know that it's as popular now as it once was, but if you're of a certain age, there's a romantic aspect
totally
of
agree.
Listening to baseball in that form.
I mean, sports in general.
Folks are saying as well. Yeah, sports in general. I agree with you. The Moop says it's tough to top a national treasure like Daisy Duke, but summer nights, the dial on WLW, a little static and Marty calling, and this one belongs to the Reds. Does it for me, riding this train at least one more time.
Me too.
The old left-hander rounding third and heading for home. And he probably had a few beers in him too. There, the great Joe Nuxall, who debuted in the major leagues at the ripe young age of 15 years old. Youngest player in Major League Baseball history, Joe Nuxall. Oh, we got a Jim Kaiser haiku here as well. Toughest matchup yet, but I revert to default. Hot chick always wins. The hot chicks have done well in this tournament. Daisy Duke, look, Duke. This tournament has a Duke too. As I said at the top of the program, guys, you've got Cooper Flag's Duke and you got Daisy Duke. What else are people saying about this pretty close matchup? Branderson says it's Ernie Harwell. Baseball on the radio all day long. Rich Aurora said, not that I don't love baseball on the radio, but it's wrong that this is so close. And BJ Lisco, I remember you. BJ Lisco interviewed me years ago for some publication, I think in Ohio, if I recall correctly. Dude, I really had to stop and think about this one. That is a tough choice. It is, in fact, a tough choice, and one that probably nobody's ever considered until now. George Ashburn says baseball on the radio is a lost art. Scully, Euchre, Buck, and Harwell are no longer with us. Brenneman's retired. At least Tom Hamilton is still with us in Cleveland. And with all that said, look at those legs, would you? The equalizer. Those legs were the Torpedo Bat of its generation. So Daisy Duke is moving on. Let's move on to another matchup that went up this morning. If we look at the bottom half of the East Region bracket, we have Clint Eastwood, who knocked off the Beatles. Clint Eastwood, an 11 seed. Moving on to take on the last day of school. And we have had a lot of talk here. Tim and you have been very clear, Ron, that the last day of school, a very, very, very dangerous 3 seed.
Oh, they're in the Final Four. They're in the Final Four. Higher. They're in the Final Four.
Yeah, maybe should have been seated higher. But, that's the committee. Jared, the chairman of the selection committee, he understands that there are going to be those criticisms, but Take a look at this. Clint Eastwood, nope, not happening today. Do you feel lucky today? Nope, you're not lucky today, Dirty Harry, because the last day of school is going to town here. 70-30, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised it's that close. That means there's 30% nerds that like school. Don't understand it.
Well, Clint Eastwood fans are nerds now.
Well, no, you're just
Ron.
you're a nerd if you picked almost anything over the last day of school.
What's better? Tim, get in here, producer Tim.
The last day of school or outdoor sex?
No. Well, outdoor sex with your teacher on the last day of school, Ron.
Boom.
There's nothing that can top that. No, Ron, here's the...
Yeah, I surprised Jared with my vote here. The more we talk about the last day of school, I don't know, man. It was like a fleeting thing. It was great for like the first couple of years. No,
nerd.
I don't know. It's the way it's worded, I think.
Look, I have a question.
If you said
I'm
first day of
my
summer,
thought here.
Go for it.
You motherfuckers, let the host ask a question, will you, you sons of bitches? Here's my question for you gentlemen. What's better, the last day of school or the first day of summer?
Last day of school.
The day after. So the last day of school is actually better.
Yes.
Than that first day of looking at the entire summer ahead of you. School's over.
Because you don't do anything. There's no curriculum. It's kind of a free-for-all, say goodbye day, sign the yearbooks. Maybe you got field day at some schools. And it's just being there, being there, waking up that morning and being at school, knowing while you're at school, this is it. I am done. When that bell rings at 3:00, I'm done. And it's an amazing feeling. You wake up the next morning and it's like, oh, okay, it's summer. That last day. Anticipation is sometimes better than the actual thing.
I think you're right. I think everything you just said is true.
I spoke over you, Ricky, and I was going to say the exact same thing. Last day of summer, first day of summer, last day of school. Ron, you're discounting, though, kids who change schools, move out of town. Like, there were more. I definitely was emotional more than once on the last day of school if I knew I was changing to school or going somewhere else. So
that's it. But that's just an anomaly, man. That's a specific case. Yeah, not looking at the broad thing.
Are you denying this man's lived experience, Ron?
Right. Miss Colombini was pretty hot, man. I wanted to see her every day of my life in third grade.
Yeah, I am. I just think you're wrong, Tim.
Ron's you might be right. Tim, your life is an anomaly. You're not entitled to those feelings.
Tim's truth is his truth. I will give him that. But when you look at the big picture, I just think I'm right by far.
Yeah, I don't dispute that.
I don't disagree with that. Let's see what people are saying about it, shall we? Jack Bauer After Dark says, I love Clint, but come on. Shane the Pain says, I would go to one more day of school for Clint Eastwood. Jim Kaiser, Jim's a machine. He's just prolific.
He's already done a haiku about outdoor sex that I texted to you guys.
Have we confirmed they're all haikus? Is it the 252? What is it? Are we sure each one? I have not. Are we sure they're all 575?
Isn't it? I think it's
575. 575. Are we sure?
Yeah. Listen, I don't even feel the need.
Don't doubt Jim. Do not doubt Jim.
Kaiser.
Yeah, do not doubt Jim.
This man is a virtuoso of the form. I feel like I can just trust him. The High Plains Drifter cannot top unrestrained joy. Sorry, Clint, school's out. The Bard of Super 70 Sports Nation has spoken.
Jim, if you're listening, give us a limerick. Oops. I'd love a limerick. There once was a man.
We want one about Nantucket.
Let somebody else be the limerick guy. Right? Let Jim stay the haiku guy. Somebody else step up to the plate and be a limerick guy.
Yeah.
There once was a man who tweeted.
Love Clint, but the last day of school felt like dropping the bad guy, settling a score with your chimp sidekick, and riding off into the sunset all in one. Well said, Moops. Polly M says it's not often that you see Clint get his ass kicked. And it's true. The final matchup that we have in the Sweet 16 of the Why Not tournament, it is Airplane, the number 10 seed in the East region, coming off of a pretty big victory over Andre the Giant, taking on Coffee, the 2 seed. And all of the 1 and 2 seeds are still alive in this tournament, but suddenly that hangs in the balance because Airplane is, last that has been reported to me, perhaps in the middle of a big upset, maybe the biggest upset. I suppose it would be the biggest upset that we have seen in the tournament so far. Let's go ahead and fire this and see what the results are. Airplane with an opportunity to make some noise. Shaking up the bracket in a big way, potentially. But look at that, Coffee. At least at the time of this, clinging to a very narrow, that's as narrow gets, gentlemen.
Surely you must be
Ronnie,
kidding.
are you surprised? Joking. And I'm not. And don't call me Shirley.
I mean, you know how I feel about Coffee. I think I'd probably vote for a punch in the face over Coffee. Airplane, as we discussed last week, is just an iconic
By the
movie.
way, Ron, did you notice earlier when we put up the picture? Okay, can we get the graphic from the women's Final Four earlier? Can you throw it up?
Listen, I thought about what you said. Like all 4 of them are getting punched. All 4 of them are getting punched. There's nobody laughing in that one.
Everybody, every college basketball player in every photo that promotes everything looks like they just took a groin shot. So there you go. They look like they just took one to the lady nuts.
Or they know it's the last day of school.
The lady nuts.
Tim, come in here. What do you think? Airplane has 50-50 right now. It looks like. Look at this. Airplane now in the lead.
Oh, this is back and forth. Look at this.
It's a dogfight.
Over 6,000 votes in already.
Oh,
Are you
This
serious?
is a dogfight right here.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.